Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People, and this episode is absolutely bananas. I've got Nick here from Lead Mining Pros, and he has made over 7 million calls to property owners, and we're going to be talking about all of those results. Also, which markets you should be cold calling in and which markets you shouldn't. So strap in, get ready. We've got the incredible Nicholas. Here we go. So the big question, Nicholas, is what have you learned after calling 7 million property owners? What are the big lessons? What are the big numbers? What are the big, aha moments have you had in your business?
No, absolutely. So a couple of things is, scale, right? Scale to get to 7 million dials isn't easy.
Okay.
Right. We all want to grow our businesses, but every time we grow it, it comes with pain. So the first thing is getting there, scaling, right? So the first thing we have to do is we have to worry about spam calls. First thing that comes to mind. It's the first thing I learned. Well, if our phone number gets flagged as spam, what do 7 million calls matter? Mm-hmm. It's just a vanity number at that point, right? It's really more about conversations. Yeah. That's a great place to go next, which is like now we're talking about how many people answered the phone. I did a campaign. This one guy got a list, skip trace through PropStream, sent it over to us, 4% contact rate.
Right.
He goes, Nick, what's going on? I said, where'd you get a skip trace from? PropStream. Okay, well, I haven't seen anything that bad come from PropStream before. It might be a little bit lower, nothing noticeable. I said, okay, why don't we re-skip trace it? We average 7 to 12%.
That's the sweet spot.
Right.
7% should be the low end.
The minimum. I agree. Anything below 7, you're in a questionable. I call that questionable. 7% or lower is questionable.
Well, it's usually one of two things, right? It's usually you have a bad caller ID number that's popping up, or just getting blocked completely, or you are you're calling bad data. You have bad skip tracing.
Or there is a third, which is huge metro areas. I've learned. The thing that first of all, we have our own competitors, real estate on real estate, but I used to live in Phoenix.
Right.
Everyone fucking called me.
Yeah.
AT&T called me, asked me if I want to get a cell phone. DirecTV called me, right? The windshield repair guy cold calls me out here. So the other thing we're competing with too is these metro areas, everyone's calling these people too. So it's not always just us, investor saturation, but it's also others. So I'd say those three things.
So they're trained more to not answer unknown numbers.
Right, yeah. If I'm getting pounded all day, only entrepreneurs answer every phone call. Right? Because we have to if we want to keep making money. So those are the ones you get through to. But that's exactly right. That's the community training. So I have some markets that I can list real quick that I would stay away from for cold calling.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another lesson from 7 million dials, right?
Yeah.
Orlando, Disney's there. Global. So one of my new rules is anything with global renown, stay away from.
Okay.
Depending on your budget.
Yeah.
That's probably a new person advice. If you got a big budget and you're a veteran, go into those markets.
Okay.
You can afford it, right? New person, I would stay away from Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, Southern California. Anyone that calls me in any of those, I'm very transparent. I don't care if you want to give me your money. If I'm not going to get you results, I'm not letting you buy that.
Right.
Right? And then I'll direct them. We offer texting too, which is really what I recommend in those saturated markets. Right? Texting is a one-on-one billboard. Yeah. That's what I consider, right? It's like a billboard that we know they got, guaranteed. So that's harder to get around.
Do you like a texting platform for that?
I have my own.
Okay.
And what I've learned is I like my own for a reason. I'm grandfathered in. Okay? I've been A2P10 DLC for 3 years. I do not have to put reply stop to opt out on my messages. So that makes everyone think I'm a real person.
Yeah, sure.
Because everyone else has to have.
Can other people use that or just you?
Oh, yeah, I sell that. Yeah.
What is it called?
It's just done for you texting on my website.
Got it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Nice and easy.
Yeah.
You sign up, you send me a list. I text everyone. We even do replies for free for you, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think 500 texts is $82. And then that's actually 5 text conversations. So 500 phone numbers get sent to me. I'll go back and forth with them for you. Not follow up. If someone doesn't reply, I don't follow up.
Let me ask you this. I think that this is an important way to take this conversation. So when somebody's starting out, we really look at when we're putting together a custom blueprint for the Rhino tribe members. We look at their schedule, we look at their market, we look at their experience, and we look at their budget.
Okay.
Right? Because those are the four main factors, and everybody's different.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's schedule is going to be different. Everybody's
you're creating
experience.
An avatar is really what you're doing. Yeah. Right.
Well, but in that we've got a whole we've got certain marketing channels that we
fit that niche.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
And one of that is, especially if you're getting started and you're new and you don't have a huge budget and you're part-time, it's either you're calling or you're texting.
Right.
Do you have a suggestion of, okay, listen, based on what your situation is, you should be texting versus calling?
So
what's the main factor there for you?
The guy I was just on the phone with had this exact problem. Nick, I've paid everybody.
Yeah.
I hired all the coaches. I have not closed my first deal yet.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Nick, I'm so far into this, there ain't no turning back, but I'm getting defeated. What do I need to do?
Right.
Same question, I feel like, just said differently. So this is who that advice is for. I said texting without a doubt. Texting offers the lowest cost per lead, period. Period. They are the ugliest leads.
Yeah.
Right? But that's how the world
Explain
works.
ugly to people.
Thank you. Sarcastic, time wasters. I always say it takes 4 text leads to equal the quality of 1 calling lead.
Oh, that's great metrics. Yeah.
And that's because it doesn't take a lot. Hey, you want to sell your house? Yeah, bucko, click.
Right.
You don't have to put a lot of attention. To pick up a phone and lie to someone for 5 minutes, whether you want to sell your house or not, way less common.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, whatever, buddy. Tell me what you got, right? It's very easy. So that's why I call them ugly. But if you're new, what does ugliness breed? Experience, right? And so one thing I tell everyone is you need to pursue every lead to take it as far as it can go. And my theory there is even if you don't close that one, you're going to close the next one that's just like it. So if you quit early, you're missing out on that next level. So I use leads as my training program. Get the lead. What did the lead teach us? What are we going to do next? So texting, definitely lowest cost per lead.
Okay.
Now,
if somebody's doing just on their own, what kind of budget would you have to get that going? You have enough phone numbers, enough addresses, and a platform to text.
God, I'll be honest.
Or maybe they're texting on your platform.
Well, I was going to say, so let's work through texting on your own.
Yeah.
Okay. You launch control.
Yeah.
$500 per month.
Yep.
Whether you send a text or not.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
With me, you give me $500. You bought a certain amount of text messages. You can't waste it.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan on minimizing waste.
Right.
And that's just buying the platform. We still have to get the phone numbers, train someone to reply it, figure out how to use the software, send this, and that's a lot. One thing I learned when I used to run education companies is they cannot learn lead gen and real estate at the same time. Think about that, right? Okay. Lead gen is its own.
Well, that's
it's powerful.
Well, listen, every welcoming onboarding call that I have is, listen, all you have to focus on is finding the deals. Right. That's it. Just find the opportunities. We'll help you get them through the finish line. Yeah. I'll help you underwrite them. We'll help you do all of those stuff. You just have to hunt. Right. You have to hunt for those opportunities. Exactly. Right?
Yeah, that's
and so that's that. I think that is the purpose of mentorship and coaching is just find the opportunity. We'll walk you through it.
Well, and that is exactly right. And when I ran,
and what you're saying is you want to do the front end. You want to be the tip of the spear to filter through all the ugly stuff, give those leads to your clients, and then they would bring it to their coaches or their mentors or whatever else to make sure that it gets through the finish line.
So I am like their access point because it's like, again, to find lead.
Yeah, but don't you think they should learn the skills, or do you think it's just overwhelming?
I think that they should. So there's 2 ways to look at that.
Yeah.
Right. So learning the skill is separate. You can learn the skill by hand dialing.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, here's a list. To give them a homework, call 100 people.
Yeah.
Make the cold calls. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And not just that, then when they hire me, they're going to go, damn, you guys are awesome, right? But someone that just hires us up front, they don't know the pain that we're alleviating from them either. Sure. So I do agree with learning the skill, but we have to make sure it happens at the right time, right? So a analogy I'll make up on the spot is piano, right? Well, the piano is its own monster. Well, what if you had to learn to build your piano bench yourself before you played the piano? Where are you going to sit? Well, I don't know how to build benches. I was just hoping to play piano. Well, we got to get good at woodworking first. And so it's like, although I don't disagree, it's good maybe to learn. It's where does it show up in the process? If it's too early, they're learning your platform, the software platform, the CRM, the real estate. It's too much.
Well, not only that, but and listen, it's great to get into those things and understand those things, but I see it as creative avoidance.
That's right.
I see it as, well, I got to go learn all of this platform and I got to learn everything, and it stops us from what is actually income producing, which is having a quality conversation with a property owner.
And that's what happens. Everyone gets sidetracked to what's really, even so I offer a CRM. It's very basic. It's go high level.
Yep.
Tons of tabs on the left. On my training video, I go, you're going to live in 2 places, opportunities and conversations.
Love it.
Don't get nerdy. Don't start, oh, well, I can make websites. You don't need a website. You do not need a website. No, I've never heard an investor, especially a new one, say, thank God for my website.
Right.
You know, if you're doing PPC and all that stuff, it makes total sense. But if you're in your first 6 months, website's not going to change your life at all.
Right.
Don't go down that rabbit hole. And that's what I've learned. And I'm good at that too, because guess what? I have ADHD. So I've spent my whole life distracted.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that I'm good at removing I've had to do the same thing for myself every day. But I think you're right. And I love it when people cold call. But if they were to, because if they bought Mojo Dialer, now they got to figure out how to use Mojo Dialer. And they got to figure out how to pull lists. It's actually even better. You just gave me an idea for a great product. Like when they sign up for me, I should almost give them 100 records free, skip traced, and say, these are for you to call. We're going to call these 2,000 records for you, but you should cut your teeth.
What's the percentage of people that you think would actually make those calls?
Nobody. So when I ran this coaching company, this is a true story.
Yeah.
This guy paid $30,000 to learn.
Yep.
The first piece of homework we gave him was to call sellers on Craigslist.
Sure.
Just get the practice. Brilliant.
For sale by owners.
He called. I'm the executive. He calls me up. Oh, what the hell's going on over there? You guys told me to call Craigslist owners. That is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
I said, sorry, I have a question for you. You paid us $30,000 to teach you how to invest in real estate. Yes, I did. And the very first thing we told you to do, you're telling us you're not doing it? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, do you understand that that's like a problem? Like, we're not telling you this is the rest of your life. We want you to get comfortable with the conversations. And that leads to my point. Lowest cost per lead is where we want to learn. When we're new and we pursue high cost per lead methods,
I love this.
I cannot afford, like direct mail, $300 to $1,000 cost per lead, right? That's awesome for a veteran who's already closed 20 deals. They know what to do with the $300 lead.
Yep.
Our leads average anywhere from 25 on a super amazing campaign all the way up to, I'd say, 175 on a kind of poor one, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you want to learn. You can't afford to learn on a $300 to $1,000 lead. And you can, but how much is in the coffers? How long could you go for? Right? And so each lead is going to tell a story, and that lead is going to show us, like I mentioned earlier, how to close the next one, even if this one doesn't close. So I recommend lowest cost per lead pursuit first. Build up your experience. As your experience raises, go into higher cost per lead strategies. Or maybe you got so good converting low cost per leads, you never have to.
Right.
So those are my thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you, it's we're in alignment there. We talk about the 5 stages of the business. The first one is find your tribe, find people that are going to support you in this. Because if you're just getting into this business and you didn't come from a real estate family or an investor family, which almost nobody does, you need to be around people that are doing this and that are a few steps ahead of you, because you're gonna become the people you spend the most time with, right?
Yeah.
The second step, which most people would call the first step, is proof of concept. Do your first deal, right? Yeah. And then from there, it's getting consistency. But what we see is, if you see it as like a chart that's sloping up, that first 2 phases is all outbound. It's all you reaching out to the property owners, right? Because you're building the discipline, you're building the experience, you know how to ask the right questions, you're doing all that stuff. You're doing the tougher part of the business. And this is really where the grinder is. This is really where that 90 days is going to make or break you, where you're finding these leads, you're trying to set appointments, you're doing your follow-up, it's fitting into your schedule. You got kids, you got a job, you got school, you got all these other responsibilities in your life, and you're fitting this into to the, hour or two that you have in your schedule a day, and you're just building that momentum so that you can build something special. And then you get to that third phase where, okay, now you're going to start scaling. Now you've got enough leads. Now you've got good systems. And now you can get inbound leads that you can jump on all the time, that you can start spending the $300 to $500 per lead upwards to, inbound. I mean, if you look at like the statistics, small market, big market, probably small market is probably $3,500 per deal, if we're honest, with inbound for direct mail, pay-per-click, pay-per-lead. For major markets, it's closer to $5,000 or $6,000 per deal. Yeah, you're talking about in the front end, those first couple stages there. Listen, you should be in that, you should be spending maybe $1,000 per deal, maybe $500 per deal.
That's right. Yeah, you should be bootstrapping it more.
But it's more effort and time.
That's right.
But you alleviate a lot of that. Is what you're saying with your company. That's where you saw the opportunity.
So what I tell people is, when you find me, leads are the hard part.
Okay.
After you find me, what you're about to do with the lead becomes the new hard part. Okay. Right? So it's like, I kind of, when they first, and that's the thing, is they're maybe tired of spending, well, Nick, I hired a VA, he quit on me, and this person, I don't even know if they're doing a good job, and they're frustrated. Because I think that's the other big mistake. You can't hire someone to do something you don't know how to do. Yeah. You can't. I mean, you can. But it's not going to solve your problems. Right. I bought a property, I hired an assistant, and I made her the property manager. Guess what? No one's paying rent. Okay, because I don't know how to do it, and I hired someone else who doesn't know how to do it, and we're not doing it right. Right. It's like, and what else should I expect? And I think that's one of the big issues is we either try to outsource too early, or we don't, or it's too complex for us to do it ourselves. But with us, we put the lead in your hands. You have a whole new hard part. Right. Now, you'd be surprised. My company reminds me of a free gym membership. And I say that because no one ever walks into the gym on a free membership. And and they even pay me. My service is not free. They pay me, and I show up, and I go, okay, I see we got 22 leads here. So, see, my one-on-one calls, they're twofers. They're accountability calls and informative. Hey, here's your stats. Well, tell me, how'd the calls go? Oh, well, you see, I was on vacation for a week, and then I got backed up. But on the next campaign, I'm going to call them all. Okay, and that's the new problem now. We almost make it so easy that they actually get the thing they've been waiting for, and they don't do anything with it. And that's why a lot of my coaching and my courses are all based around making those callbacks seem simpler. Sure. Right? Here's the exact script. Here's exactly what you should say. I have some great one-liners for everybody. It's not difficult. Here's what you should do. And it's like, and when you make it simple, I've learned when you make it simple and you give them a bunch of support, they do it. Yeah. They do it almost every time. So that's kind of my thing, is making that simple and getting them to actually call the lead and have a good attitude.
So do you have any KPIs, any stats? And by the way, if anybody is listening and you're like, what is a KPI? It's a key performance indicator. It's basically just what are the results of your efforts, right? How many people did you call? How many people did you get a hold of? How many of those people want to sell their property? How long did it take before you could get an appointment, before you can get that under contract, before you get paid? All of those things really matter to make, a future business decision. So, what's the typical, somebody comes to leadminingpros.com and they get a lead from you. What's the average follow-up time before they actually get it under contract?
So I've noticed a couple of things. I mean, there's two different kinds of leads. There's right nows and there's laters. Sure. Right? And a lot of that can also be deciphered by your skill. You could turn laters into right nows.
It could be the list too. Yeah. There's certain lists that are time sensitive, like foreclosures or tax defaults or probates even. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's some that are a little bit faster as opposed to just going after people that have equity and own properties in rough shape.
Our bread and butter nationwide is absentees with 35% or greater equity.
Of course.
That's our number one bread and butter. And I also call that the master list. Sure. And that's because, and one thing, before I get to the KPIs real quick, I'll just say that one thing I've learned is, like, the human brain If it's one thing, it's not I don't want absentee, I want pre-foreclosures. Yeah, well, there's pre-foreclosures on the absentee list. I don't want absentee, I want tax delinquent. Well, guess what? There's people that are tax delinquent on the house that they don't live in, and now they're way more motivated. So I call absentees the master list that we pursue.
Okay.
And unless you're in cities like this, then those 7 I named earlier, if you insist on hiring me for cold calling, even though I asked you not to, and people still do insist, I tell them to go to more distress list. I call it PVT. It's a combination list of pre-foreclosures, vacants, and tax delinquents.
Love it.
If that list doesn't perform, leave the market.
Yep.
Because absentees isn't going to do any better with the realtors and the other investors and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So if we go there, we don't see it, we're going to abandon ship. Well, let's go pick a tertiary market.
Yeah.
Is that the cute word for those?
Yeah. Crushed it.
Thank you. So then now back to the KPIs. There's a couple different things we're seeing. And I offer legends whenever I send my KPIs to my clients so they can. I've learned that if you're like, I got 7 leads on 500 dials, they're like, well, is that good? I'm like, that's fucking amazing. But if you're new and I don't tell you that's amazing, a lot of people are like, I don't know.
Right.
So I have legends now that I send out with people that I'm like, it's a dials per lead and a text per lead. Okay, that's how I like to break it down.
Okay.
So nationwide right now,
Yeah.
we're averaging on texting leads.
Yeah.
80 to 150 text messages per lead. That's crazy. And you heard me say I sell 500 text messages for $82.
Right.
So if you do the math, and let's say you get 3.
4 deals.
Yeah, right. It's crazy.
I mean, 4 leads, sorry.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. And then for $82, we're at $21 per lead. That's insane. So that's number one. Then we jump over to cold calling. Cold calling at the peak of a campaign, either a super rural market or a land. We're big in the land right now.
Right.
So super rural, let's say suburban plus, suburban or rural, and or land. Best case scenario, we'll receive a lead in every 100 to 250 dials. Okay? Then what I like to see, or what my clients have reported, and this is the teaching I like to give, is you should be closing a deal 1 in every 12 to 20 leads.
Yeah.
Okay, we see that across the board. All right, if you're doing the work, I can immediately tell if you're not doing the work. If you do, I hired a guy in.
What do you mean doing the work?
That's the hard part. That's the new hard part, right? That's the lead came in. Read all the notes. Step 1. Step 2, don't piss yourself off from reading the notes. The number one thing I teach against is no negative self-talk about the leads. Right. I'm like a relationship coach. Instead of counseling a married couple, I'm counseling the marriage between investors and leads.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, hey, if you tell yourself you hate this lead, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself this lead sucks, so that's one of the main things I teach. So doing the work, reading all the notes, not pissing yourself off when you read them, making sure you still feel optimistic about the outcome when you call them, and then calling them within if you're doing houses, I'm going to tell you to call within a 30-minute window.
Yeah.
If you're doing land, you do have until the end of the day.
Sure.
And it's because they're not being pounded by other people. It's not as emotional. There's not as much stuff to think about, with land. But then it's moving quickly. And then the final piece of doing the work is, I call it keeping your customer service hat on. I think people put their sales hat on a little too early. And I'll give you an example. When I got the job for that last education company, I actually walked out on my last career. When they interviewed me, I don't start the interview by saying, hey, walked out. Hey, you going to hire me now? No, I have a great interview. I worked there for 3 months, and I pull my boss aside, and I go, hey, I just want to come clean. Like, I walked out on my last job. Things were toxic, and I'm sorry I did that, right? Now, let's compare that to making an offer. Right? So I don't know you at all. You just got off the phone with my guy, and I'm like, yeah, 50,000. Who are you? We just met. What are we even talking about? But instead, if I have one great call, hey, how is everything? I got your info from my partner, Sherry. She gave me this great synopsis of your call. I said a couple questions for you. But first, I just wanted to ask, she told me you wanted to sell. Why don't you tell me, how did you plan on doing that? It's one of my favorite questions. Because I think one thing we do as sales is we don't know what they're thinking, and then we show up however the hell we want to show up, but it's not what they were thinking. If we know what they're thinking, we can now pivot, adapt.
So say the line again.
You just got off the phone with Sherry about 123 Sycamore Street. Oh, yeah, you sure did. Great. Well, Sherry told me you were interested in selling.
That's an enthusiastic seller there.
Yeah.
By that tone of voice that you just did.
Yeah, she can't wait. Sherry told me you may be interested in selling, but why don't you tell me how did you plan on doing that?
How did you plan on doing that?
Yeah.
Love it.
It's sick.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, oh, well, Sally up the street fully remodeled and she sold for full price, or, a tree fell on the house and every time it rains we got mold and we got it. Like, you're going to know, you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? So now you know what to do. So that's the next part, is keeping the conversations positive. So we talked about not making the offer, making an offer too soon is rapport loss. Mm-hmm. The same way as me telling my new job, I walked out too soon is rapport loss. Mm-hmm. I tell them 3 months after I make them hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're like, Nick, their loss, our gain, right? Their whole attitude flips. So we want to do the same thing. So I always recommend 2 to 3 solid, peaceful conversations with your customer service hat on.
Yeah.
Then when you show up to that third call, then you're wearing your sales hat. Guess what? When you save $50,000, they just had 3 great conversations with you. Mm-hmm. They know you're not an asshole. Mm-hmm. They know you're not trying to waste their time. So I'm a firm believer in making the deposits before we make a withdrawal. And a low offer, regardless, is a withdrawal. And they'll accept it better if we can have 2 or 3 of those nice conversations. Because don't forget, if you hire us, they're talking to an American who's killing it with great customer service.
For your cold callers.
For your cold callers.
But some of your texters live abroad?
That's right.
Okay.
But the texting is all just scripted.
Yeah, sure.
And so you can anyone can even customize that script that can just be 160 characters. So we could send blind offers on text messages and all kinds of cool stuff. Sure. Which is great. So that's all just scripted. But so like if they talk to us, they have a great previous conversation. They have 2 great conversations with you. When you drop the ball, or when you drop the pin or whatever, it's not going to be as loud because they've learned to love you a little bit over that time. So those are some of my strategies that I take.
And listen, it's our job in lead follow-up to pull out the information, to pull out what is the condition of the property, what is their timeline to sell, what is their motivation or what is their problem, and what is their price. Right. You know what I mean? Nick, the best deals that I've ever done, they've told me the price first. Every single time. Every single massive deal that we do, and we'll do a 6-figure deal assignment every 90 days, and no doubt about it, they will tell us their price.
It's their price.
If I get this, it's yours.
And you're like, deal.
Right.
I remember.
Well, obviously you ask, is that the best you can do?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
even if they say a great number.
And my guys won't even know how good of a deal is. They're just known to do that. They don't comp the deals. They're just giving us information to make sure.
That's another big piece. I freaking hate it when my clients are like, I got the lead. I looked it right up on the county assessor site, and it said this, so I didn't call them. What?
Yeah.
First of all, data is known to be incorrect everywhere, especially government-owned data. Right? It's like, call the freaking person and figure out. So I like that, your system, and I hope everyone's paying attention. Like, it's not analyze it to death before you make the first call.
Well, listen, you shouldn't do any research until you know it's a lead. And a lead, in my mind, is somebody that has truly made the decision they're going to sell their property.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
They know that it's going to happen. They've made the decision. They're going to go through and they're going to sign all the documents required to transfer title to somebody else. This isn't somebody that needs to be convinced. We're never going to convince anybody to sell their property.
That's right.
And so, we're deal finders, not deal creators, is what we say.
Yeah, right.
And that's so critical. And that was something I learned from Tom Kroll, my mentor. And it was so great when I heard that. I was like, we're deal finders, not deal creators. Because I was trying to squeeze everything out of everything. And when they truly hadn't made the decision that they're going to sell.
Right. Yeah. And then
so
all of a sudden your bandwidth.
That's the discovery process.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're truly, and I say this, I say this to my 7-year-old when I drop him off at school. I said, "What are you going to be today?" And he says, "Kind, confident, and curious." And that's the same mentality that we have to have when we're speaking with people and interacting with these property owners. Is we need to have that confidence, or they're just not going to they're not going to feel like we know what we're doing.
Right.
We got to be kind. We can't just be blowing them out of the way with our personalities. We have to be kind, and I mean kindness in a sense of we're versatile in adapting to their personality, the way that they communicate.
Right.
mirroring with them. You know what I mean? There's a kindness that you have to have to humble yourself, to not just be bombastic when you want to be bombastic and not be real slow when you're real slow. You know what I mean? You gotta follow their personality types and communication types, and then curious. Like if you're genuinely curious about what is going on with these people, as opposed to how much can I make on this deal?
Right.
Is this a good deal or is this not a deal? Like all that stuff. And all this stuff comes with experience. But if you're genuinely curious, like, what is the problem here? How can we help them out? What's going on with their life? You're going through a divorce? Oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Where are you living? How are things going? You get into the nitty-gritty of the actual situation. Then you understand that the discovery process, 80% of the time, they're talking. You're listening and being there, right?
And something I always say to support that is, if you're always thinking about the next thing to say, you're going to say the wrong thing.
Of course.
If you genuinely care about their experience, you're always going to say the right thing. So something I tell my cold callers or my clients, well, what am I going to say? No. Don't queue up responses. Because it's like, I'm sure we've all done you ever ask a question in a job interview and they say something else? And it's because they had an answer queued up. They didn't listen to your question. They think they thought you knew.
Sure.
And they throw something else at you. And so it's like, really be
But that's a skills. I believe, we talk about mindset and going in with the right mindset. And the mindset is really strengthened by skills, and skills is strengthened by reps.
Right.
That's just it.
And that's all.
Right. The more people that you talk to, the better you're going to be.
Right.
That's why I always suggest before they hire anybody, talk to 1,000 property owners yourself so that you get those reps. You suggest 100, and you actually do it in your company. Because I say that, Nick, and nobody does it.
Well, of course.
I mean, a lot.
Well, you're proving a point of get the experience yourself, or not. But I think you should.
Well, I want the confidence there. That's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter if you know every strategy, every creative finance, every cash offer, every flip offer, every buy and hold offer, all these stuff. It doesn't matter if you understand all that stuff. If you're not confident in the way that you're going to approach this conversation, it's going to be a problem, and you get confidence by doing it a lot.
I have so many ideas. I feel like I should buy a Mojo Dialer line and just let my customers cycle it.
Why not?
Hey, I keep one running. You want to log in, knock some call. I could just have it be all owner occupied crap. I was like, it doesn't matter. Mess it up. It's all.
You could load it up with for sale by owners.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care who you talk to. It's just having a conversation about real estate.
And you're right about confidence. So when I went home, my story is, I worked for a national education company.
Yep.
They only did direct mail.
Right.
I had a woman call me crying one day. After paying the education fee, plus the cost of a direct mail campaign, she said, my phone didn't even ring once, Nick. She actually uses me at Lead Mine now, which is fun. She actually called me, and I was like, she didn't even know. I was like, you're the reason I created this company. When you were crying to me, I said to myself, there has to be a better way for these people.
Yeah, sure.
There has to be. And then that's what happened. I looked down at my phone, and I go, well, we're already paying AT&T. Why don't we just get a list? And I started teaching everyone to hand call.
Yeah.
Is what I did.
Sure.
Then when I went home, and again, all I did was teach people. I never made a single call myself. And then when that job was coming to an end, I was like, well, it's time for me to be a real estate investor. I saw other people get rich doing this, so it's my turn.
Yeah.
And I went home and I called people, and your confidence is rocky and shaky at first. And then day 3, call 350. You're like, yo, I got this. And I think that's the point that you're making is like, we have to let go of that initial fear.
In the Rhino tribe, we have what's called the virtual office, where people are just on Zooms all day making calls. Yeah. And when you go in there, you're thinking that it's like this intense boiler room type of thing. The dialer's going on your laptop. You've got your phone out, and you hear a beep. Somebody answers. You go right into it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then it's just reps and reps and reps, and then all of a sudden, people in that group are making 30 new contacts a day. Eugene Latson, 100 contacts every single day.
Wow.
Every single day in July. Sunday to Sunday, bro.
Wow.
Right? Did the whole
7
thing.
7 days a week.
4 deals. I think it's like 80 or 90K worth of deals there.
Contracts, yeah. It's huge.
80 to 90,000 in a month from just sitting in his office in his house with his kids running around and his wife popping in, just making calls, just talking.
And imagine that confidence, right?
Yeah.
And even if he didn't close the deal, he's still ready to run through a brick wall. And one thing I did too is
he's got 4 deals from that effort. I mean, he's literally making. I don't know how it's shaken out, but 80 to 100,000.
Yeah. And that's the part that people don't get is like the confidence that you get from that. And one thing I did that was my big secret is I create several wins. So I'm sensitive. I give up easy too. We all have these issues.
Sure.
It's not just new people at things, right? It's like it's everybody. And so I created different wins. If someone told me, it was really nice talking to you today at the end of a cold call, I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah. Because it's like I cold called them. They weren't a lead or whatever. So one thing I did too that really helped me was create wins other than deals and leads for yourself. That I said the script perfectly. Huge win. I didn't stumble. I used to cold call with this partner. Shout out to Chris Marnalego. I love you, bro. But I used to cold call with Chris. And then every time I would be like, we could cash, I'll still fuck it up. Well, like cash quickly and close fast. And he's like, every time, Nick, you can't say, I'll say the whole script right. But the one day you get that right, you're like, oh, and so it's like, I also like the micro wins too.
You got to stack the small wins.
Yeah, keeps you in the game, keeps you positive too. But no, that's huge. And now that guy's ready, right? 90,000, let's say it's $50,000 in profit. Great. Well, now he just bought some freedom, bought some free time.
Well, now he's doing.
Now
he's working with us for pay-per-click, and now he's getting inbound leads.
That's exactly
it's the next stage up.
Right.
Once you start growing your team, you move from outbound to inbound. Essentially, what you're doing is you're still providing inbound for people early on.
I turn outbound
just
into
your
inbound.
Outbound is somebody's. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I would say, in my experience, from our cold call leads and text leads, it was a 70-day follow-up. It was usually from the time that we got my acquisition team got the lead from our callers and texters. It was about 70 days, and then 30 days to close it. So it was a 100-day process from the initial time it got into our acquisition team to it getting closed. Do you think that that's reasonable?
I think that's typical? Reasonable if you're. So I have a couple of things that I think you're 100% accurate. I don't think the average person, has the tracking or the follow-up system that lasts 70 days.
Right.
So I think that what I see is people closing deals in a shorter window, but not because they're closing deals in a shorter window, but because they're letting all those go.
Right.
Is what I bet has happened. Does that make
sense?
They're
just getting the
you
low
guys
hanging.
Were good. That's exactly. You guys were good enough to do it.
Right.
But because I think that is something that maybe my clients don't have as dialed in.
Sure.
But you guys had it, and your point is probably if you did the math, is we closed 3 times more deals at 70 days than we did at 20.
Sure.
Would be a cooler thing for you to maybe look at, right?
Yeah.
So we gave up at day 20, we would only have X.
Yep.
But if we go here, I think it's a good lesson for everyone else to understand.
It was 31% where it was under 60 days.
Got it.
Yeah. But you got some outliers that are years.
Right. I had a guy call me the other day, Nick, a woman called me back from your campaign. I just closed a deal. I just made $100,000. And it's like, they love that too. And it's good for me because it reminds them I'm here. Oh, how'd I find these guys? There definitely is long tails. And that's why my challenge is to the customers at that point. It's like, what do you do? I remember I had a woman call me up and complain, this lead says they want to sell in 3 to 6 months. I said, I got good news for you. You want to buy in 3 to 6 months. Or are you going to quit? Are you done with real estate in 2 months? And it's like we have to think a little further ahead.
So what budget? So working with you to do, you pull the list, you pull the skip tracing, you get it in. You basically just give people leads.
Yeah.
This is like almost like pay-per lead type, but that's more digital marketing based. This is more reaching out outbound and then putting it in. What's the minimum budget that somebody should put aside, and for how many months? You know what I mean? I always say, you need to have 3 months or 6 months depending on the marketing channel.
Right.
So what is a budget that makes sense? Because you don't have contracts for your thing.
Right.
You're not going to keep anybody in
exactly
and whatever else. It's kind of a month to month, I assume.
That's right.
So, but what would be the minimum, and then what do you think's optimal?
So there's a couple of answers to that. One is I tell people to expect to spend $1,500 to $3,500 to close their first deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the term first deal on purpose because now we should have a pipeline.
Yeah, sure.
If you first deal, that means you should have 20 leads.
Yeah.
Of your first deal, which means you have 19 follow-ups and one closed deal.
Sure.
When we run that campaign again, we get 20 more leads, 19 follow-ups, one closed deal.
Yeah.
So that is in, I'd imagine, more tougher markets, right? To be honest with you, for land right now, I mean, it's bananas.
Yeah.
I had a client close 4 deals on $1,000 purchase for land. I mean, granted, they're not $20,000. Well, I mean, they're probably $3,000 to $20,000. The average land deal, like they're a little smaller.
Yeah.
You know, whereas where houses might be 30 to 50.
Yeah.
Right, kind of thing. But that's just. But it's only a numbers game. Land deals don't close more often. You get more of them, which is why, as a lead generator, I see the cyclical nature of numbers. 20 should equal a closed deal. If it doesn't, check your systems, check your leads. You miss something, guaranteed.
Yep.
Right. So, what I tell all my clients is my first goal is to get you to 20 leads. Right. Period. How do we get there? So I would say anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 to get your first deal. After that, you should be rolling deals at $1,500 pops. And that's
any market?
Well, I was just going to say, that's going to depend on your lead flow, but that's where I offer one-on-ones to all of my clients.
Sure.
So let's monitor lead flow. Let's not. The only people that are mad at me are the ones that get bad results for a month, then don't say anything for 2 months, and then one day they get a hair up their ass about something else, and they call me frustrated.
Right.
I'm like, first of all, I can help. It's a little late, and you spent the last 3 months getting really frustrated with me.
Sure.
But it's like, what'd you pick? Well, I picked Miami. Okay, well, that's a part of the problem. So is there any other markets? So there's a lot of troubleshooting that's involved, but that's my job. Okay, you can pick the markets. It's my job to redirect you for market selection.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's my job to make sure if things aren't going well, to then redirect you again. Now, I don't watch your campaign like you do, so I always tell my clients, like, I'm never going to call and book a call with you about your campaign, but you can book a call with me whenever you want about your campaign.
Yeah, sure.
So to say that, it's like, as long as we make sure you're getting those proper lead averages on the website. So on my average $1,500 purchase for houses, it's 8 to 20 leads. And the more saturated your market, the closer you are to 8. The more suburban your market, the closer you are to 20. Okay. For land, those same,
other way. The more you need more leads in a major market.
What I mean is, the more saturated the market, you're only going to get closer to 8.
Got it.
Yeah.
For the cost.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I thought you meant per deal.
Yeah. Right.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. For the deliverable.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for land, that same product is 20 to 60 leads.
Yeah, sure.
Which is crazy, which is why they're closing the deals. But so that's kind of what's happening there. And then, so through that, it's like, where are we on the 8 to 20 meter is what I like to gauge, right? And so, and that's where I come in. Like, hey, do we need to pick? And it happens all the time. Guy uses me. Even though all my training says stay away from saturated market, don't give me the hottest zip codes in the hottest city. Don't do that. It's just not good. And so they hire me.
But what if you want those?
Well, that's okay if your budget supports it. So one big thing I tell everyone is well, where are you? Oh, well, I'm new. Okay. So if you just picked up basketball, would you be trying to play against Michael Jordan?
So you saying if I wanted to go, I could do better in Flagstaff than I could in Scottsdale?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's right.
Cool.
And you could probably even do better in between Flagstaff and Scottsdale than you could do in either.
Well, sure. Camp Verde.
But see, that's the kind of advice I give, is to get people thinking outside the box. So I had a woman hire me in Seattle, Washington. I was like, that's I don't even have to say it's saturated. The word Seattle, everyone knows.
Yeah.
If everyone knows the name of the city, it's everyone else's first choice too.
Yeah.
To start there. I think that's the other thing we have to learn about human behavior,
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And I go, we do a campaign. Nick, I got crap results, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I said, is there anything around Seattle? We move 4 feet over. Next meeting, Nick, I closed the deal. You were right. And that's happened at least 5 times. And that's why I love my one-on-ones, because we do little pivots, and then it does change everything. And they're not drastic, so I'll cover a couple of my tips, if that's okay.
Yeah.
If you're in a saturated market, hope's not over. Do a...
By the way, I feel like you mentioned this before, but I really want to reiterate this. Saturated in the sense that there is calls and texts from all industries.
That's correct.
Not just us. I don't want. We have this conversation, and I have this conversation often with people that are starting, which is it too saturated with wholesalers? And I'm like, there's unlimited amount of deals there.
Right.
And I'm going to show you how to make sure that you can convert them and how to find them and do all that type of thing. There are way more deals than there are us.
Yeah.
And batch, by the way, batch skip tracing and batch services paid like something ridiculous, 30 or 50 grand to do this report on how many wholesalers there actually were.
Okay.
And it was between 70 and 90,000. This is in 2022.
In the United States?
Yes. This is in 2022. Now, I would say there's 50% of that.
Right.
I would.
Right. Oh, yeah. Left. You're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So you're talking. Let's go upper. 25 to 45,000 actual wholesalers in the world.
Yeah.
There's 14 million distressed properties.
right.
10 to 14 million. I mean, that's just the stats.
Right.
That's the U.S. Census stats. 10 to 14 million compared to 25,000. There's more deals than there are us. So I just want to clear that.
And that's just a good attitude to have, right? And that's what I was talking to someone. Before you call the lead, you need to focus on what cheers you up about calling the lead. And data like that it excites. It's exciting data. It's like, because we want to think the cards are against us. That's what we want to believe every step of the way.
Yeah.
I was talking about the tips for the conversions. So if you're in the saturated market, and you don't want to leave. Happens all the time. Nick, this is where my contractors are. This is where my team is.
Cool.
Got it. Yeah, love it. So what I would do is I would find the zip code with the least amount of transactions in that market. We start there.
Cool.
And
You're doing that data?
I tell them how to find it. I've got a training video where they can go to ListSource completely for free.
Yep.
Pull all the stuff.
Okay.
And then find the transaction.
They don't have to pay for ListSource?
You only have to pay when you export.
Oh, yeah.
Cool
I know
video.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you can still see how many would are
cash
there.
buyers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or cash buyer. Yeah, per properties purchased cash. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You can still look at the numbers. So then you pick the ones with the lowest amount, and then we start there. And then what I tell people is, if you're not happy with those results, it's not going to get better anywhere else. Right. And again, I'm not saying, I'm just logically talking about math. I'm a big math nerd. So that's step one. You don't want to leave, we go there. You okay with me even a little bit? Every area has one part of town or one nearby city that has a shitty reputation. And that doesn't mean war zone.
Sure.
Okay. I don't push war zone on anyone. Actually, I joke and I say white trash is actually where you want to be. You know what I mean? You don't want to be like in a war zone. But so like where I grew up was a town called Lakeland. There was this little crappy town called Mulberry right next to it. Okay. Maybe the 50 people that live in that town just heard me shout them out. But if I were to invest in Lakeland, it would be in Mulberry. Okay. And it's because it's right there. It's 1 mile away from the busiest part of town. But it's like as soon as you go into Mulberry, there's like tumbleweeds rolling through. It's perfect. It's perfect because no one else is going there. It needs gentrification, is another great way to put it, right? And it's close enough to the heart of the city that even if you get an investor, it's 3 miles away.
Yeah.
If you got an investor and it's a deal, they're moving out to buy it. So my next thing is find the nearest, crappiest reputation, right? Like, oh, those redneck, oh, those guys are, oh, that part of town, oh, there's only trailers over there, oh, there's only this. Whatever that is, you have two options when you find those. One, I recommend if you don't want to leave your city, pick all the zip codes in your city that border that crappy area.
Okay.
It's guaranteed to be the crappiest part of the city, right?
Yeah.
The place that neighbors the crappiest town, right? Or if you're okay with it, go into the city. So that's the advice that I give people if they are stuck and they don't want to move markets that are far away if they're really close. So lowest transactional zip codes. And some people ask why. That's kind of obvious, but if you were a burger joint, you wouldn't put a burger joint between a Culver's and a McDonald's, right? So when you're investing, I don't recommend starting where there's thousands of other transactions going on, right? That's number one. Number two is find a crappy part of town, pick all the zip codes in the city you want to be in that border that crappy part of town. Then three is, or just go into that crappier town, right? So that's kind of how
or spend more.
Right.
See, you're saying that to me, and I'm like, okay, that's fine if you have a low budget. I want to be where the action is. I want to be where the I put out a deal and I got
It
multiple
sold right away.
offers. You know what I mean?
Well,
but I'm willing to pay for that.
Right. And then I do have a habit of speaking only to cost.
Right.
Right, which is what you're alluding to. And then I spoke to one client. I'm in Don Costa's mastermind.
Yeah, sure.
One of his clients calls me up and he goes, "Nick, I'm paying $17,000 per deal right now in San Francisco." And I said,
bad.
I said, "I guarantee you give me $5,000.
Really?
Get you a deal." Yeah. $5,000. I'm cold calling and texting. That is a lot. So he gives me $1,500.
Yeah.
We got him 13 leads.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is the downside of not having contracts and commitments. He's too busy.
Yeah.
He never hires me again.
Yeah,
I see him at another mastermind. I go, "Bro, we got 13 leads for $1,500. I was like, "Bro, we got to do that again, dude." It's like what I told you, 1 in 20 close. So if he did that again, $3,000 equals 26 leads if the numbers continue to average, right?
Sure.
So it's like I start looking at stuff like that. So, and that's why I always say that. And then people, sometimes I'm talking to big dogs and they go, "Well, I got the money." Well, if you got the money, that's okay, because that talk also, in a way, just also helps set expectations for you. We're not going to blow it out of the water, but you're also probably converting leads at 3 times the rate as the new person is too.
Sure.
So you can afford to take a 3-time lead flow cut,
Yeah.
right? Because you're like, "No, I'm good with." Actually, someone in your shoes, you're like, "You can get me 3 leads for $1,000, right?" You're like, "That's actually great." But a new person,
Unlimited budget.
That's right. But a new person, if I said that to them, they would tell me to kick rocks, right?
Sure.
And that's why they're both true, but I do default. Like another talk where I accidentally look at numbers too much is, I met with this client and they only got 5 leads, and that wasn't a big purchase, like $1,000 purchase. It's like, "God, is this?" It's like, yeah, this is a little low for us. We generally like to see it to be here, be there. I get done talking. He goes, "Did I tell you I closed a deal last week, by the way?" And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start leading with how'd the leads go. Then I'm going to analyze the numbers.
I would rather have 5 leads and close 2 of them than 500 leads and close 10 of them. Right, you know what I mean? Like if I can get that consistency and not clog up my lead follow-up system as much,
your
my
setters,
acquisition,
right? Yeah,
sure.
Your compers,
for
right,
sure. Yeah. I think that people should be throwing out more leads that they have quicker, depending on their strategy, just so that the bad leads don't hide the best leads. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, good point. Yeah, you don't, like we were saying about all the phone calls happening.
Yeah.
You get all the phone calls, you start ignoring other calls. You get a bunch of bad leads. The time a good one comes across your desk,
Yep.
it's probably just like those other guys.
So the question, Nick, comes back to how much monthly budget? If somebody's just starting out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the minimum that you can work with them? Is it $2,000 a month?
My smallest purchase is $550
a month
on the website.
And what do they get for that?
For that, we pull 625 records in their criteria.
Yep.
Skip trace them all.
Okay.
We're imagining 500 come back with the phone number.
Yep.
Then on those 500, we execute 1,000 American cold calls and 500 text messages.
Cool.
So everyone gets everything.
Awesome.
People say, "Do you do it in a sequence?" We do not do it in a sequence.
No.
We do, right. That's a waste of time.
No.
We're just wasting more time.
Yeah.
Waiting for someone to reply
Right.
Well, we're going to scrub 3 people off the list? What the hell are we talking about? Text them all, call them all.
How many months should somebody have 6 months of that saved up?
To use us?
Yeah.
Honestly, there is immediate feedback with us.
No, I know.
On my one-on-one calls.
But you pay that now, get leads coming in. The way that I look at it is our business is a big locomotive. It's a big train.
Right. Once you stop
and the engine of that train is lead generation, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to constantly be putting that coal into that engine.
Yeah. What I would say, with that being said, is I would say, if that's your goal to have more, is I would buy a different package. That's the cheapest that we start at.
Yeah.
Right. If you have more in the coffers, what I would do is I would buy more, but do it bi-weekly. And I'll give you an example, especially if you're new. A lot of people go, "Should I run this campaign for a month?" Because you tell us how long we run it for.
Right.
Anything you buy is 1 to 4 weeks. You pick.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is, first off, if you're full time, I would do that $550 one in 1 to 2 weeks if you're full time in this. Then if you get a lot of leads, take the next 2 weeks to button them up.
Sure.
Then when the month restarts, knock out one of those again, because I've also learned that I don't want to overload you with leads. And to the same point is too many leads will cause paralysis too. So I have a couple of trainings in there.
Cool.
But that's what I would recommend is, the truth is you run your first couple campaigns and you find the cadence of leads. I don't always know how many we're going to get. It's going to fall in that range. Once we see our average out, then you budget according to your bandwidth, if that makes sense. But I do agree, like 6 months of that is...
I'll just answer the question. Guys, if you don't, you need 3 months. You need a minimum 90 days to commit to it. You do, because you're going to get consistency there. It's going to take some time to convert these to appointments, convert these to contracts. You got to be dedicated to it. And if it were me, anytime I look at a new marketing channel, it's 6 months minimum. That's what's making the decision. I'm gonna commit to 6 months of this at a minimum before I really know the stats, before I really decide if this is good or bad or whatever it is, and what kind of stress tests that I can put on my company and my acquisition team when it comes to these marketing channels. So, if you're hearing Nick, leadminingpro.com.
Pros.com.
Pros. Leadminingpros.com is where you can check all that out. And you work with people just starting out. You're working with people that are ready to scale.
Veterans,
you're working with, people that have big businesses and solopreneurs. So leadminingpros.com. That's awesome.
Rock and roll, man.
Nice to have you on here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Really great stats. I mean, really, really great stats. I love that you have certain markets that you wouldn't cold call. You would just do text. I think that is really critical. I think that, somebody to go out and to be able to get their first deal between $1,500 and $3,500 is exceptional. And if they can't afford it, great. Get on the phone and do it yourself until you close some deals. Right? You know what I mean? You're only going to get experience. You're only going to build up your bank account that way, and then you can start hiring it. But I mean, that's a phenomenal cost per value.
And the cool thing too is I try to remind people is we're not just... I pose as a lead gen,
right?
But I get free one-on-ones. Everyone gets my cell phone, and then I offer free group coaching every Tuesday, and then free courses. And just like the guy out there who I started off by saying, I need to get a deal. I literally said, he doesn't have a lot of money. He doesn't have. I said, you buy a texting package. It's our lowest cost per lead package. And you call me when you get leads. And so that's like additional level of service. It's not just you're off in the wild. It's that you get expert analysis. So even on your 3-month commitment, it's so funny. I love this conversation because you're trying to like nail down for a long time, and I'm so like pay as you go. I'm almost like no.
But then it
but
just,
you're right.
My experience, the more you invest, the more you want to return. The more you want to return, the more attention that you're going to get put to it. The more attention you put to it, the better it's going to be. It's not time management. It's not priority management. It's not energy management. It is attention management.
Right.
Where is your attention?
Right. That's where
you
your
know what I
money goes.
mean? And when you put aside and you go, hey, listen, I'm gonna
make this work.
I'm gonna spend $6,000 over the next 3 months. I am going to get a return. I am going to find some great opportunities.
And I will say this. That's like,
and it shifts around all those other things.
And, you are right about that. And I will say that the clients that I speak to, my most successful clients are always positive ones. Even if they're brand new. I had a girl call me up once, Nick, I know this is going to work because my mentor told me about it, and he only recommends things that work. Her very first day, she got a lead. She got it under contract on Monday, sold it by Thursday. She only made $3,000 because it was in Muncie, Indiana. Okay, I think house was only $22,000 out there or something. I don't even know.
And have been for 100 years.
Right. But I love that she knew. And within 5 days of her knowing, and I think that's the point that you're making, it was when we commit to it, we go places with it. But one thing I was saying too is if results aren't panning out, like I'm here for that. The average direct mail company, there's no post office to call to ask why your mail didn't hit. There's no, so I offer that hands-on approach. And when he says budget, he doesn't mean you blindly follow. He means you set it aside and we adapt and we change and we move through it. It's not just like, oh, well, I did this and I did the same markets the whole time. Well, sometimes that could be the problem if we didn't adapt or change lists or anything too. But that's where I come in, again, to help direct you to the best areas because I'm pay as you go too. So I only make more money if you're satisfied.
Awesome.
And that's why everything's built up for that.
Awesome. Great to have you on here.
Thank you. Yeah,
so they
absolutely.
should just go to leadminingpros.com, check
That's
it
right.
out, and that's where they're at.
That's where it's at. Bam.
Awesome.
It's all right there.
Absolutely incredible. There you go. Leadminingpros.com, guys. That is our podcast episode for today. If you have any comments, make sure that you put them in the comments section. We answer those on YouTube, and we do a really good job of making sure that there's no mystery behind any of the content that we put out. We want to give you all the resources that you're looking for so that you can go take massive, imperfect action, be a 7,000-pound rhinoceros charging towards your real estate goals. I love you guys so much. I am Brent Daniels, encouraging you to go out there and talk to people. Till next time. See you guys.